World Cup tickets prices are truly out of control. We get an update about Vancouver Whitecaps stadium arrangements and who is in and who is out of the USL League One and Championship in 2026. That and much more on Friday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's game happening in the United States of America, dotting the map of the American soccer landscape. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side this morning, and always, radio soccer guy Jason Davis. Thanks for tuning in. How you feeling, partner?
I'm good. I'm feeling ready to go. We have a little bit of a different format today, which I'm very excited about because there's too much, I think, is the rule, is the news today. There's too much to get to, so I'm going to break this up. Very interesting American soccer topics, all of these things, kind of peppering. We got some MLS, we got some NWSL, we got some USL, couple of things, jersey reveals, all of that coming.
Yes, we're calling today a Friday free-for-all with just so many topics to cover. We're going to start on the world stage and work our way down to localness. So one of the beautiful things about the beautiful game, it covers the world as well as right here in our backyard.
Should we mention our spotlight today, Rob?
Yes, I was going to say at the end of the show, if we get through everything, we are going to go bonus and dot the map because we've got quite a few new members, haven't added them to the map, and maybe put a spotlight on one of the MK Ultras.
I want to do that right now. I want to do the spotlight right
Throw him on
now.
the screen. So our man,
you might have seen it with a little bit of a glitch. You might have seen it at the top. Glitch with my shirt. You might have seen it at the top of the show. We're spotlighting Ryan Smeltzer, who gifted a bunch of memberships. Was that last week that he did that for us, and has been very active. I saw him already. He already got popped up on screen. Happy Friday. Excited to see the USL home openers announced, USL 1. And that is part of today's show as we talk format and home openers for the USL sides, Rob.
Yeah, who's in, who's out, a big topic of conversation. So we're going to kind of machine gun it with topics, and I'm so glad everyone is right here along with us. If you want to be like Ryan and the other MK Ultras, just a few dollars a month, become a channel member. You can get bonus content, priority commenting on screen, and then you get to be in the Morning Kickaround Discord server and become a dot on the map as we put that together, as we grow as a show and as a community, and no cost at all. Become a subscriber. Just become one of the 5,300 or so we have there. And thank you to all the subscribers, and do so if you haven't already, and tell your friends. If you have any questions or big topics you'd like to talk about, or any business items you'd like to bring up, morningkickaround@gmail.com is a great way to get a hold of us on the show. Are you ready for a Friday free-for-all to cover all these topics?
Yes, I think I'm ready. There's a lot of moving parts, but I think I'm ready to go. I think this show is going to be great. Let's dive in.
All right, let's get it going on Friday's Long Balls here on Morning Kickaround. We all knew it, and the evidence is getting thicker. World Cup tickets labeled as extortionate and a monumental betrayal, according to fan organizations and most specifically the Football Supporters of Europe. We've seen these reports, people calculating how much it's going to cost for them to travel and follow their teams, and it's pretty out of control.
Yeah, this is, man, I've seen plenty of this expression of, I was so excited for the World Cup to happen. I was so excited to maybe give my kids the experience I had in 1994. For me, who kind of missed 94 because I was wrapped up in other things, or I was moving around or whatever, my first opportunity to maybe go and maybe take my kids and all those things. Now, because I work in soccer, it may end up being a work thing for me rather than a share it with my kids thing. And honestly, my kids aren't the right ages for it anyway, so it's kind of unfortunate on that level. But people are basically saying, nope, Yeah, I'm going to be watching from home, or maybe I won't watch at all. I've seen plenty of that opinion as well.
I had
I'm
that
going to
same
bring
exact
up,
conversation with my Thursday night pickup guys. They say almost word for word of what you're talking about. Of I was
yeah,
looking forward to it, and now it's not happening.
courtesy of The Athletic, I want to bring up this list of the prices for the games. This is individual group stage matches and the prices for each category. So we've got category 1, category 2, category 3, I think there's some category 4 stuff happening, or maybe we're out of category 4 tickets. Did they run out of category 4 tickets already, Rob? That may be what you want. So again, look at these prices. Now, obviously, a home opener in Mexico for Mexico is going to be expensive. Fine, whatever. That expensive? I don't know.
But
But
they
even
actually have a cap on the resale there, so that's actually more controlled than others.
well, this is not. Yeah, this is not dynamic, right? That's what they're saying. It's not dynamic. It's just we're setting these prices very high because we know the demand will be there for us to sell these tickets. Canada's opener on June 12th. $2,170 for Group 1, down to $930. The U.S. game against Paraguay, that's the first Los Angeles game, $2,700 for Category 1, $1,100 for Category 3 in order to get into the building. And to kind of give you a sense of what the stadium looks like, you might not be able to see this perfectly on the broadcast, but you can kind of see there. Orange tickets are category 1. That's essentially the entire lower bowl. This is Miami Stadium, what it's being called for the tournament. And I believe this is a game between Portugal and Brazil, which is obviously going to be
That's a big one.
I'm sorry, Brazil and Portugal will be playing in Miami. This is not their game. They're not playing one another. They're not in the same group. But this is just an idea of what the breakdown for categories is at this stadium. For example, when Brazil plays there or when Portugal plays there. The only category category 2 tickets are in that upper deck. Like, where are the category 4 seats? Do you see them? There's tiny little bits of green right here in the corner. I think is probably where those category 4 tickets actually are. Everything else is, and there's a supporters value tier. I'm not sure what that level is for pricing, but it doesn't matter because these are nuts. Qatar versus Switzerland will cost you $140 just to get into the building in category 3. I mean, again, we're talking about what is supposed to be the event of a lifetime, what is supposed to be a tournament for the people. And instead, what we've got is FIFA squeezing every single dollar they can out of the American marketplace.
I asked my dad, he got us family tickets to all the Detroit games in 1994, and he said those were like $30 a piece back in 1994. So just to put it in context of, it wasn't always like this. And add on to these ticket prices, there was a story I saw coming out talking about the inflation of the hotel pricing. So it's not just these tickets, not the price of admission, but if you're trying to get everywhere, if you were able to run the gauntlet of getting through international security in the country, you will then have to pay, thousands % up charges on the hotel pricing. And I saw someone in the comments, and there's a lot of anecdotes going around about people calculating their expenses and be $42,000 for an English family to follow England through the group stages, which is pretty outrageous. And that quote from the Football Supporters of Europe, that is in reaction to the special allocation of tickets to their specific supporters groups are also outrageous. And so I was thinking that this is going to be, how in the NFL they talk about the NFC and the AFC championships. Those are the biggest games for their own fans.
Yeah, because
the Super Bowl is invitees, award winners, and CEOs and sponsors. And so is that how all these big games are going to be next year?
That's how it is. Yeah, absolutely. That's FIFA is basically saying we want to do the NFL model, except they basically have turned the entire tournament into a series of Super Bowls. In fact, you heard that line at the World Cup draw. We're doing 100 and whatever Super Bowls in 1 month. And it's like, but the problem is that you talk about the Super Bowl and you're saying it's a great thing because it's this massive event and the world's watching and it's a celebration of the sport, whatever you want to claim. At the same time, the bad side of the Super Bowl is regular people can't go to the Super Bowl. Regular people cannot go to the Super Bowl. And now regular people can't go to World Cup matches. This only entrenches the idea. And maybe this was the natural progression of this anyway, but it only makes firmer the idea that this is a spectator sport that we spectate from home. that we spectate online, that we spectate from a removed position, because going to the game, unless we're talking about your local league, and I know even MLS fans are bitching about ticket price hikes in places like Columbus right now, right? Even your local league could be pricing you out, but this is now where the local league is. It's also kind of why maybe a lot of American soccer fans are realizing, I don't want to engage with FIFA, I don't want to engage with MLS. What I want to engage with is USL and maybe my truly local club, if you happen to live in a town that's got one, as again USL dots the map and puts teams all over the country. This is going to be this is kind of going to become this bubbling undercurrent of, you know what, screw this high profile, flashy, big business version of the game. Let's pay more attention to a local and connected version of the game that doesn't price me out of my seats.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I was a marketing maven for a grassroots team, maybe one of the summer amateur leagues or the USL, I would be saying, you can't go to the World Cup. We have the best of the local scene has to offer, and see what, the roots of the game honestly are like. When you go to a Detroit City FC game, you're standing like 5 feet away from players, you're spending $20, and you don't have to mortgage your home to have a good night out and go see the football. Before we move on to our next topic, shout out MK Ultra Extraordinaire, Luke Sigorski. He's thrown in the super thanks, $5. Foster Sons, Gio's last day with us before he moves on to his next step. Gio, always soccer always be in your heart. Shout out Gio. Great to have you on board. And thank you so much, Luke, for sending in that super thanks. Oh, yeah. So we're going to go from the global stage. We're going to bring a domestic topic. We'll bring up that next subject here on Morning Kickaround. Big news on the domestic front in the NWSL. The league's Board of Governors has approved a new roster mechanism that would allow teams to pay stars like Trinity Rodman significant wages beyond the salary cap. This is being coined the high impact player mechanism. Still requires consultation with the Players Association.
Yeah, there's that, right? So you got the timeline here, Rob, and I got some information on the high impact player rule that they're planning on instituting in order to try to fix this problem with Trinity Rodman and maybe give themselves some flexibility down the line. But give us a little quick timeline on what's gone down involving Trinity Rodman and this controversy.
So in 2021, after her breakout rookie season, she signed a new record-setting at the time $1.1 million deal for 4 years. So this year, 2025, the last year of her contract, that expires at the end of the month. She had injuries on and off throughout the season, which complicated negotiations a little bit from the reporting. But in the months leading up to the finale of the season and the playoffs, so definitely a major storyline of the playoffs, receiving offers from overseas and then also receiving offers from the USL Women's League.
That was a wild development, by the way. The DC Power saying, you can't spend that money. We're an upstart league. People don't think of us as big time. We're going to drop a big offer on Trinity Rodman. That was a wild one.
Who was the big player that the Cosmos signed back in the past iteration, like 10 years ago? That was the outsized big name player, the Spanish guy.
Raul. They had Raul, right?
That kind of reminded me of a Raul sort of thing, just like an outlandishly big name in an upstart kind of grassroots lower league. But so the plot thickened then after those deals. So in the midst of the playoffs, the Washington Spirit, her NWSL team, offers her a contract, kind of backloads it. It was another record-setting contract, but the NWSL rejected it, which forced the Players Association to file an official grievance.
Right.
So we were in this 2-week negotiation period after the grievance, and that is what has spurred this approval of this high-impact player mechanism.
Okay. So a couple things to fill into the gaps there. One of them is that Jessica Berman, or the league, when the reporting initially started through Meg Linehan and some other sources, was that the original contract, that offer, which is backloaded, in which the league claimed was going to violate the salary budget rules. They said it violated the spirit of the rules or something, which is just a funny word to use in light of the team involved here.
Yeah, don't teams, I mean, don't you want your teams to be trying to, we're going to fight for the player? It seems like they are by working this contract up.
My understanding here, and I'm leaning a little bit on Claire Watkins, who did an incredible video for Just Women's Sports that outlines all of this. Go watch Claire Watkins. She indicates part of the problem is that the way the league saw the contract is that the Spirit were betting on an increase in revenue at the end of the contract would allow them to pay Rodman and not have it impact negatively their ability to field an entire team, right? Because obviously at $1 million plus for a league where a salary budget is $3.5 million and maybe $4 something by 2028, they wouldn't have enough room to fill a full team. And the Spirit were like, well, but there's going to be a new TV deal and we're going to have more money coming in and this is going to raise the salary budget. And the league was basically like, well, no, you can't do that because you're not. And the Spirit put in a clause that basically was a kill clause if that didn't happen, right? If the revenues didn't go up enough to push the salary budget up enough for the team to field a squad and still pay Trinity Rodman what was in the contract, they could kill the contract. But that led the league to say, well, that means it's not really a serious offer because it's so based on contingencies, it can't be legitimate. Obviously, this is a back and forth. Now, I will point out that, again, because the contract did not technically violate the CBA, that has created a response. And the Democratic Women's Caucus, congresswomen, got together, 39 of them, to issue an official letter decrying the situation and asking the league to fix this, saying you have to follow the CBA. Now, all of that is leading into what is now happening late last night and now today, as we learned about this high impact player rule. And here is the issue. Now, it's described here in this copy. This is Jeff Kassouf writing at ESPN, so go read Jeff Kassouf. The new mechanism, which multiple sources have said has been dubbed the high-impact player rule to describe who would be eligible for the new funds, would allow teams to spend up to $1 million over the salary cap on top-end players while incurring only a portion of that salary as a cap hit. This is effectively the DP situation. Now, the difference lies in how they apply it and who it's applied to. The spirit of the rule, however, is that there will be guidelines for teams on who qualifies as high-impact players, and that the funds should be spent on retaining and attracting the world's best talent. Those guidelines would vary from the league's previous form of allocation money, which was used freely by teams in all sorts of transactions. Sources said that a high-impact player must meet some requirements from a list of both sporting and commercial benchmarks to be eligible for the funds. We'd like to sign this player and pay her as a high-impact player. Well, how many social media followers does she have?
I was going to say, does your signing have to have a big Instagram following to get a good contract?
What are we talking about here? This is so insane because of the subjectivity baked into this rule. If the team cannot freely sign who they want under this rule, then the rule is null and void because it leaves too much power in the hands of people who are making decisions based on non-sporting things. You are saying we do not trust our teams to spend money. And I'm sorry, I know that you want to maintain parity. I know you want to have financial stability, Rob, but that does not make for a legitimate sporting competition if the teams are not allowed to go out and spend the money they want on the players they want to build the team they want to win the championships they want, period.
Yeah, you don't want anything like decreeing or denting or chipping away at credibility, and not being able to do this would definitely endanger credibility of the roster building and the league building process itself. Another note, among the qualifications discussed for this, a third-party media outlet rankings of top world players and most marketable athletes, as I said, but it's unclear if these qualifications were made it to the final criteria. So that's wild. So there's the outside people saying who are eligible for this.
Right.
I mean, so it's easy in this instance. Obviously, you're making a workaround almost like a Beckham rule for her here. But like once you get beyond this, because she's obviously a star player, but yeah, it gets way murky if this attaches to other
where's
players.
the line? How do you apply that? Who's responsible for making the decisions? If the league says, well, we'll contract a third party, and then maybe if you can get the Players Association on board, then they'll agree to hand off responsibility to determine the level of a player in order to qualify for the high impact player rule. But then again, you still end up with who are those people? And why do they get to decide for the team? And what metrics matter here? And it's just, look, I understand that sports is marketing, right? And I'll put this up from Chris. the American belief with sports is that sports teams need to make money. Now, I do think that there are plenty of people involved in the NWSL on the ownership side who are more like, you know what, we just want to be involved, and making money is not our real goal here. But you obviously have people who do think that they want to make money and are less likely to sign off on, let's just spend what we want, or even spend what we want under a certain salary cap hit, or have a rule that allows teams to make their own choices. Because again, I own a team in the league. I'm not going to use this rule, or I don't have any interest in spending above the salary cap, but somebody else does. But their signing is going to impact my business because this is a single entity league and we're all marketing this together, and we all have to be pulling the same direction. And now I want to say over what my competitor in terms of teams is able to do, or I hand that off. Again, we all sign off on some third party. I mean, it's just, this is bonkers to me. I mean, they really have to clarify what they're trying to do here in order for me to believe that this is a good idea.
So John Hunt in the comments has a good question, and I want to ask this to you. So not too long ago, in the not too distant past, the main players that made money in NWSL were the women's national team players, and the federation was paying those players to get a higher salary to stay in the league. And so John's asking that this scheme sounds like that. What's worse, the federation paying just a hand-picked group, or this whole proposal?
Well, okay, I understood why that was a thing. Again, but it's in the service of building the league in sort of an artificial way. The problem is that in American soccer, you kind of have to find artificial ways to build the competitions and the business. Otherwise, you might not have a league, right? And that's distasteful to us as fans because we want it to be about sporting integrity. But here is a league making choices that are not necessarily about sporting integrity, and that sucks. And I would love for NWSL to be past this. Maybe they're not, and that's kind of what they're wrestling with here. Even as we recognize that if Trinity Rodman goes off and plays in Europe and they lose another player that way, with nothing coming back the way it did for Naomi Girma or some of these other players, then you're saying, well, we're ceding our position as the preeminent women's soccer league on the planet. We're not even going to really compete for that position anymore because we're too worried about our bottom line, which, again, without knowing what the books look like exactly, could be in trouble or could be fine. And if you trumpet that we're fine and then you don't put the effort in financially to keep the good players so that you can remain a preeminent competition, well, the people are going to look sideways at you. And that's what's happening.
You guys are tuned in to our Friday free-for-all on a wildly busy news week in American soccer. We're going to move on to our next topic in here in just a sec, but be like Luke. Thanks for the super thanks, Luke, and shout out to Gio. And become a member, get your comments on screen, and we're going to dot the map at the end of the show. We're going to move on.
I put up a goal for today's show. If we get to 10, I don't know, something magical happens. Maybe I'll change my jersey or something. Or I don't know, we'll sing on the show. I don't know what, we'll do something. Obviously, we have some members only content coming afterwards. So again, either give us a super thanks or sign up as a member and support the show.
Yeah, maybe you keep your camera on while you change your shirt, and that'll get some members in the mix there. But shout out to the Ultra of the Week, Ultra Spotlight, Ryan Smeltzer. He donated some memberships last week. So shout out to him. All right, let's move on. Our machine gun of news stories moves on. Let's go. New acronyms coming into my vocabulary. We just talked about the HIP, the high impact player, but now we're moving to MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Tensions were raising in Vancouver and surrounding Vancouver's run to the MLS Cup final. Don Garber, MLS commissioner, has been ratcheting up the heat, trying to get Vancouver Whitecaps a more favorable venue, calling the current lease at BC Place untenable. And then this week, or actually just yesterday, the city came out with a memorandum of understanding with Major League Soccer to get into exclusive negotiations with a new venue at Hastings Park, 17 miles east of the current home of Vancouver Whitecaps, BC Place.
Yeah, I mean, look, 17 miles sounds like a long way, but when you're talking about the Caps playing in BC Place and it being imperfect, and this is a little bit of a back and forth on we don't make enough money from the stadium, and then the stadium saying, yeah, but you don't pay a lot. And so there's a little bit of that he said kind of thing back and forth. But I was talking about this before the show. It does feel like the Caps are very much in an RFK Stadium kind of situation where they just don't have enough control for this to be viable for them moving forward. Now, you could say, well, that's MLS being greedy or the Caps being greedy, but there is a bottom line where people just don't want to be involved in the business anymore if it doesn't have levels of revenue that they think are worthwhile. We're showing video of the announcement yesterday of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, which is like, that's barely, it's like if you were talking about, I'm going to go jump into that lake in the freezing weather, I'm going to do a polar bear plunge, Robin, that would constitute like the idea of getting a stadium. They were doing a stadium. We're diving in. It's 12 degrees outside. Let's go. They've put a toe. They put a tiny little toe, maybe their pinky toe, in the water. That's what a memorandum of understanding is. This is barely anything. This is simply, we're exploring this possibility. But there's a site, right? And there is momentum and there is desire here. So you have to be at least encouraged on that front, right?
Yeah, encouraged that, like, you know, there was reports swirling earlier in the week that like half a dozen different American cities were trying to maybe poach the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Did we or did we not get a message from somebody who said they're going to Vegas? It's happening. And then
yeah.
You and I obviously speculated at Phoenix, who's making a move to build their own stadium to try. It's chum in the water for an MLS team in Phoenix and Mesa, Arizona. You know, again, Don Garber showing up in Vancouver is sort of like, that's their last stand. That's their like that. They're throwing the whole all their big guns at this to try to make it happen. So this is progress. I think this probably puts off the idea of an imminent move, but there's a lot of work to be done. And I think even if they get this all kind of sorted out, it's 2028 before they open up the new building, which means they still have to play a BC Place.
Yeah, you said that there was kind of an icy reply from BC Place following this press conference, but reports about this untenable agreement. Apparently, Whitecaps receive as little as 20% of the concession revenue at home games, and only a small portion of their, just a portion of their gate revenue. So yeah, like you said, they want some control and they want to be able to get more out of it. And then also the site that they are proposing this basically calling dibs. Like no one else can talk. It's like almost a guy who's like non-committal. Yeah. He really likes his girlfriend, not ready to get married yet. So he like gets engaged, but they don't put a wedding date on, just like calling tabs. Like no one else is allowed to, propose to her now. But one of the things through this whole process, when Don Garber was putting pressure on it and all the press releases in the lead up to this announcement, was I get a little bit cynical about the signing of Thomas Muller, because they're talking about, a lot of the pressure was like, this team's done so well when teams rallied and the communities rallied behind the successful team. I remember when one of the first episodes of the show a year ago was Vancouver Place's their home leases, expiring soon. It's not the most financially responsible or financially rewarding. They might move, and then lo and behold, a year later, they have their best ever season. And then Thomas Muller, one of the most recognizable footballers in the world, randomly, I mean, I think everybody was surprised by that, randomly drops out of thin air into Vancouver, and then it's been an absolute PR junket for the last 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Thomas Muller's the kind of guy who's going to jump on board with something because he really believes in it. So there could be good intentions here. But yeah, I mean, look, all of that sounds about right. By the way, here's a photo of the site, the Hastings race course.
It's wild. They raced horses here for 113 years, and they only just closed this down 2 days before this press conference.
Yeah, exactly. Like it shut down, and then they moved quickly, and that's that makes sense. Again, that makes sense. I already put it on screen, but shout out to Nate who says an MOU is non-binding. It doesn't mean anything. So there is that. This would be almost incredibly scenic.
The fact that they're not being adversarial, just almost as a goodwill token in a way.
Yeah, yes. It's basically the city of Vancouver saying, we will help you. By the way, Empire Field was right in the same spot, basically in the same park area. I don't know where in this picture relative to the race course Empire Stadium was, Empire Field, which was the temporary venue that the Caps played in before they moved into BC Place when they were an MLS expansion franchise, because obviously as a USL team or whatever they were back in the day, they didn't have a building big enough for MLS standards. So why that's not coming up, Empire Field. I mean, I guess what it is this is the spot where we would just do an Empire Field, but permanent, right? And it's, again, right there nearby. But Empire Field got deconstructed. I'm going to put up, again, the letter here from BC Place. I know we got to move on because this is rapid fire today, but this is a little bit, again, it's a little bit clapbacky, right? It's a little bit like, oh, yeah, whatever, guys, whatever. It's not our place to comment on any potential new location for the Caps as things stand today. BC Place remains proud to be the current home of the Caps and will be so when the 2026 season kicks off in February. They mentioned the number of fans, 50,000 in attendance for multiple sold-out games. They talk about the 14 years that they've been the home of the Caps. And then we remain engaged in productive discussions with the Whitecaps regarding their upcoming lease renewal. That's obviously on the table. That's part of the story. Any discussion about the current agreement should be looked at in totality, factoring not just revenue, but also operational costs and capital investments. The current agreement offers several revenue opportunities for the Whitecaps, yet the club does not contribute to or assume the risk for the vast majority of match day costs, which would 100% be their responsibility in a stadium they own. While we are proud to remain the current home of the Whitecaps, the reality is that our partnership with the team is, for us, more about supporting a very valued community partner than financial profit. They're saying, like, oh, well, we're not actually in it to make any money. Why are you being so mean to us about our lease with you? But again, just like at RFK, when you don't control most of the money, when you don't get most of the money from concessions, when you don't get, when all these things, whatever the Caps are paying to rent BC Place, they're not paying operational costs, fine, on match days, they're still not benefiting in the same way a team would benefit if they wholly owned their stadium or were in a partnership with the city that had more preferential agreement, more, the revenue streams were more directed towards the Caps. And again, there's always that issue, Rob, of should municipalities be engaged with private businesses to benefit those businesses? That's a question.
All right. We are halfway through our Friday free-for-all. Be like Luke. He sent in a super thanks donation. Big thanks to Luke. And then be like Ryan, our Ultra Spotlight, our MK Ultra of the Week. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting this program. Hit subscribe and then become a member if you are able to do so. But let's move right along. Here, our next topic on our Friday free-for-all on Morning Kickaround. All right, USL, who's in, who's out is the question as United Soccer Leagues release their format, including all the teams that are going to be playing in 2026 and their teams' home openers in the USL Championship. Lost 1, gained 2, and the USL League 1 lost 1 and added 5. And so the USL Championship will have 25 teams in 2026. And the USL League 1 will have 18.
All right, so here's your 18 teams in USL League 1. We'll go from the bottom up. It's usually the other way around, but let's highlight the third division, still for the moment, a third division soccer league. You've got Boise, who is new. We're obviously highlighting them through our countdown to kickoff. Please go watch the countdown to kickoff with Brad Stith on AC Boise. We have AV Alta, second year. Charlotte Independence. I think there's been some question about whether the Independents would survive and whether they could keep it going. But here they are, once again, involved in USL League 1. Chattanooga Red Wolves, Corpus Christi. And let's not pretend otherwise. There are rumors out there that people have been talking about whether or not Corpus Christi was going to have to push their launch date back, Rob. That's something we had heard. In the end,
more than one person, too.
More than one person, question about the ownership there, and we're not in a place to judge, but it's not like everything has been smooth sailing for Corpus Christi, and it does feel like that is a significant lift for a organization for basically moving up with the same ownership they had from the previous level, right? That's like, oh, okay, you're talking about trying to go pro without bringing in significant new money or finding a new owner. And maybe there is more money coming in, but that's interesting there. We got Fort Wayne. We've got brand new team. We got Ford Madison,
Ryan Schmelzer's Ultra Spotlight of the Week. That's his team, Fort Wayne. Sorry.
There you go. Shout out to our man Ryan, Fort Wayne, Ford Madison, Greenville Triumph, FC Naples back again, second year. Cosmos debuting. Also watch the first ever episode of Countdown to Kickoff.
Countdown to Kickoff.
With the CEO of the Cosmos, Eric Stover. More to come there. We've got one Knoxville, Portland Hearts of Pine. We've got Richmond Kickers. Always great to see the Kickers still alive, still kicking, no pun intended. Sarasota Paradise. We've highlighted them on this show. We've got South Georgia Tormenta, and that's a club too that is kind of like fighting the good fight in a smaller town, a smaller market. Spokane Velocity. We've heard some things about Spokane, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like right as of the moment
they're rocking. They're rocking.
As of the moment, they are still doing their thing. We've got Union Omaha. Shout out to our Union Omaha people who are in the chat, and Westchester back for year 2. All right, so go ahead.
So down one, losing Texoma. Obviously, that team moved down to USL 2, and then Rodeo FC is going to come in the future, from what we understand. But yeah, new to the league: Boise, Cosmos, Corpus Christi, Sarasota, and Fort Wayne. And one other note about the format that was released this week, and notable in general, just because it's a huge time spread, is the 2026 regular season home openers were also announced. Out in California, AV Alta is starting on March 7th, but you see Westchester in the bottom right of this graphic. They're going to be cold. They are also kicking off their home opener on March 7th up there in the very northeast up there in New York State.
Yeah, that thing of trying to figure, like, I was reading, the format, which is for USL, obviously it's just one league and we're not doing cross conference. We'll get to that with the USL Championship, but that just the complications of trying to put together the schedule. Like I'm not a math guy. I don't know if you knew this about me, Rob. Not a math guy. So for me, that whole permutation thing is mind-boggling, and I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with it. Here are the home openers for USL League One, by the way. You mentioned that. AV Alta March 7th. Ford Madison not making their home debut until May 29th. Did we find out why that might be? Is there an update on that?
We don't have an exact update yet. Hopefully Jenny can clack away in the background here for a second. We assume that maybe that's some sort of a stadium arrangement, some sort of unavailability of their home venue, but that's a huge spread to go 3 months into the season without a home game. It is quite the asterisk to put on the balance of your season. So I guess basically the second half of the season is all at home. But looking at that, so you're going to see some debut home openers, the Cosmos on March 14th. So the countdown to kickoff for the Cosmos goes until March 14th. And then similarly, AC Boise, countdown to kickoff with them as well. Their debut in their new stadium, April 4th.
Now, when we did countdown to kickoff, we put AC Boise on less than 100 days because they won't play a game before. It'll play a game in less than 100 days, but they obviously won't make their home debut until April. So that, again, lots of, like, that's the thing too, the complication of getting the stadium exactly right. For Boise, that's a new stadium. Eric Anderson tells us, and he's an ultra like Eric, he says that the reason for the delay for Ford Madison is new turf at the stadium. And I guess you probably have to let it thaw in Wisconsin before you lay down the turf. That would be my guess, Rob. You would know better than me in your part of the country. All right, we should move on to the USL Championship.
Yep. So let's move on to the USL Championship. Like I said, it's a net gain of one team. We are down North Carolina FC, but we have added Brooklyn FC and Sporting Jacks. And so you see Sporting Jacks in the bottom row of the Eastern Conference, and then you see Brooklyn second from the left in that Eastern Conference box as well.
Obviously, it's not a completely balanced league. You've got 12 teams in the West and 13 teams in the East now, which as somebody, I don't like math, but as somebody with some low-level OCD, it really bothers me.
It's not ideal. You wouldn't call it ideal.
Yeah. Shout out to our man Tulsa Mario Vamos FC Tulsa. He says back trying to win the championship that eluded them last year. Brooklyn's going to be interesting, out there on Coney Island, playing in a minor league baseball venue. We'll see how that goes. Sporting Jacks, obviously debuting, as you mentioned. There's some teams coming back. after successful seasons last year, who will be aiming for big things. Lexington in year 2 in the championship after promotion, not the normal way of promotion, but promoting themselves to the championship is certainly interesting. What else stands out for you? You want to talk about home openers for this league as well, Rob? Because I got those.
Yeah, so that's not quite a big of a spread. Obviously, we know now that Ford Madison was pushed back because of stadium stuff, but March 7th, opening weekend in the USL Championship, and that's definitely some cold weather games there for a lot of those teams in the northern part of the country. But I'm trying to think of what the most compelling. So of the new teams, we got Sporting Jacks and who is the other
Brooklyn.
brand new team? Brooklyn FC. Let's see, who would they have in there?
So Sporting Jacks is hosting Hartford on March 7th in Florida, and then Brooklyn is hosting Indy 11 on March 8th. That'll be chilly up there in Brooklyn. I also see that Rhode Island is hosting Loudoun United on March 7th. So that'll be a chilly one in the Northeast. There's some interesting matchups here. Obviously, it's always exciting to know when your home season is going to start. Our man Tulsa Mario, probably very excited for Tulsa to host, looks like San Antonio on March 14th. So that should be an interesting game out west. I see that my hometown, Sacramento Republic, born and raised a whole 2 months, they get FC Tulsa in their home opener actually on March 7th. So Tulsa Mario and I can go head to head with our hometown teams. I mean, Tulsa's his adopted hometown. Sacramento's my actual hometown, but I was only there for 2 months. So I think we're on the same level in terms of that.
A couple of things that stand out to me. I mean, it wasn't news, but the venue for Brooklyn FC, I saw maybe just people with the announcement of the schedule. People like looked up Brooklyn FC and where they're going to be playing. A lot of people online lamenting at the home venue that Brooklyn FC is going to be using. And then I don't understand.
It's a baseball stadium. We're doing baseball stadiums. That's the deal. What's the problem?
But I was just going to say, I don't understand Miami FC. Like, what I want to know what is going into the business model for them, because they are the lowest attendance in the league.
Okay.
But they have a plan for build a brand new stadium. So I wasn't sure what they were going to be, their situation was going to be in 2020.
There are rumors, and we did not bring this into the show, and I apologize for not having the visuals, but there are rumors out there, caught this on Blue Sky, among the USL Illuminati, what I call them, that there might be a rebrand coming for one Miami FC. That because of the potential, because of the stadium plan, because of the move, while they will be close enough to Miami to on some level claim Miami, they might actually be rebranding, because wouldn't the city that is helping you build a new stadium, don't you think they would love you to call yourself that city's name rather than than Miami, which is again up the road and not the city that is helping you build this stadium? So they're basically going to be in Homestead, right? And if you do a little digging, and again, I saw this on Blue Sky, you can find at least some potential copyright filings that suggest Miami FC could become a Homestead team instead.
So that would make sense. And it's just kind of sign of the times that Miami area will go from 0 soccer specific stadiums to 2 soccer specific stadiums just within a couple of years each other. But there you have it, the who's in, who's out, and the home openers for USL.
Let me do this. Let me just give credit where it's due. Derek Reese on Blue Sky doing the digging. He found the filings for Homestead SC, and in cross-referenced the address for Homestead FC LLC with the address listed for Miami FC. And guess what? They match, right? They're something like that, or they're close enough. Yep, registered agent name and the people involved is. Right. But it's Miami. Maybe it's an agency thing. So there's that. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, just south of the city, population of Homestead, just north of 85,000 folks there. But yep, we are moving on in rapid fire. It is Free for All Friday in a very busy news week. Let's move on to our next one. And as we do, hit subscribe and let's get going. All right, on Free for All Friday, I'm Robert. He's Jason. Moving to the middle of the country now. Oklahoma City has some renderings. The maps for scheme has come together, and we got some new pictures.
I would like you, Rob, to sing an angelic song, one of those dramatic, like, oh, because there it is. There is the rendering. Now, it's a rendering, but we love a rendering. I am a rendering junkie of the planned stadium in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Just one look. We've got this one from inside the building. Open end. Now, it's pretty standard for a USL level stadium, and I don't love that. But, of course, that because cut down on construction obviously gives you a chance to see the skyline through that end of the stadium, which is always nice. Here's a nighttime shot of the stadium and the proposed building, and then a concert shot because, this is going to be a stadium for the city of Oklahoma, not just for OKC and their soccer team. And so you get, again, the open end allows you to put the stage and the whole bit. So it's part of the deal. And then this one, you said you like this one the most. It's just a little model, little rendering model of OKC.
I guess it looked a little bit more tangible. You don't always see a look like this in these sort of presentations that come almost on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. Now various stadiums dotting the map across American landscape. But yeah, it was just a little bit different. And yeah, like not a whole bunch to get out of your seat about, but it was an interesting, different way to present it. I would love to like kind of walk around, like actually see a physical model of a stadium, kind of architecture nerd in that way. I also kind of reminded me of like just the different approach that the Chicago Fire took with the hand-drawn like architecture draft when they first presented theirs.
Yeah.
But so work on this stadium set to start in the spring with an opening of January 2028. So they're thinking they can build this thing in 2 years there in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that is ambitious, to say the least. This one is a little bit. Look, I'm seeing Jay Hunt say PayPal Park, Lynn Family Stadium, Fort Wayne, OKC, all the same. Now, obviously, you have
fire.
PayPal Park is one of the smallest MLS venues, home of the San Jose Earthquakes. Lynn Family Stadium, home of Louisville and Racing Louisville of the USL Championship and the NWSL, respectively. Fort Wayne, obviously, jumping in to professional soccer this year in OKC. That may be true. This is a Populous design, by the way. I think you can actually see the name Populous. Maybe it's in the corner and you can't because we're highlighting Ryan, but this is a Populous design. Populous does good work, right? They're a big-time stadium design firm. They're based out of Kansas City. The only thing is, to what Jay Hunt is saying, he's not saying it's bad, right? Saying it's all the same style, which does get you into that place of like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we had some variety in our soccer stadiums? I think we do at the MLS level. I think it's tougher when you're talking about the price point, the budget for a stadium like what OKC wants to build. And I am definitely a beggars can't be choosers kind of person when it comes to this, Rob. We're talking about building proper venues, mostly enclosed, roof around the entire stadium. I mean, they complete the roof. That makes this a next level American soccer stadium at the second division level, the third division level. That is the next step, right? That's the thing. When we start to see this happen, we realize the appetite for soccer is big enough that people are willing to put down enough cash to, or create the tax districts or whatever to allow these teams to build proper stadiums rather than just 4 stands around a pitch. And that's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get too uptight about the same sort of stadiums. I mean, like you said, there's a roof on it. It looks like there is room to expand because the third or the fourth end on the other side is smaller. So I assume that there's room to expand. And we just got out of a segment where we're talking about multiple teams playing in baseball stadiums. And so when we're talking about the levels here, this would definitely rank amongst the best stadiums at, the second division level in the United States. And OKC, I mean, this team has been proposed for many years. And so this is maybe the closest tangible. I mean, obviously we don't believe anything until, there's actually a soccer game happening and like all the construction has already happened, but this is the closest to it that Oklahoma's come so far.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you talk to somebody old enough, and I think a lot of us are old enough, and again, this is my thought experiment, right? This is always my thought experiment. if you had a time machine, I don't think you would do this because there'd be more important things to do with your time machine, maybe to help the world. But if you had a time machine, maybe it was soccer specific, you had a soccer specific time machine, Rob, and you were able to go back, say arbitrarily 10 years, or certainly 15 or 20 or 30 years, and you said they're planning to build a soccer specific stadium in Oklahoma, and it's going to have a roof around 3/4 of it, and it's going to be an incredible small soccer venue for a team in a second division that will have how many 25 teams in 2026, and by the time Oklahoma City comes in with this stadium and everything, it'll be pushing 30. If you told yourself that, you'd be like, nah, I don't believe you. You're lying to me. That's never going to happen. What are you talking about? We're playing in football stadiums. There's 15,000 people at Soldier Field watching soccer games. What are you talking about? To imagine that we're here sometimes is a pinch myself situation. Now, again, it doesn't mean we don't have standards. It doesn't mean we don't still ask these teams to do it the right way. It's not that we say we give them a pass on everything when it comes to treatment of fans or players or skimping here or there. It's just to say, this is incredible. We should be excited.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Pinch myself. Yeah, it's still wild that Detroit even has a professional team. I mean, just even that fact, and the fact that they are building a stadium with 1 year to go, they're trying to get that online for 27, which is wild. But I'm looking at this rendering on screen a little bit, and I was like, wow, that's really cool that they have the open end facing the downtown, so you get the skyline. But I do see that there's ghost buildings there. I'm assuming that's part of the multi-use aspect of it, because like most of these things, it's not just a stadium, it's part of a larger real estate project. And then just a quick quote from OKC soccer president Kortjeski. He says he believes that they can set the bar for how a downtown venue interacts with their community. So not only is it a soccer specific stadium, but it is right there downtown adjacent. And from our conversation, I believe this is in and around where the OKC Thunder play, and a very active part of downtown.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Kortjeski would say it's a good thing. Of course, he lives in Oklahoma, in Oklahoma City. I imagine he's thrilled about who the Thunder are right now. But
like the best on the edge of a dynasty, it seems.
But you're also dealing with, we're trying to launch this soccer team, and over there is a basketball team playing in the top basketball league on the planet, and they're kind of eating up all the interest and the oxygen. I don't know. That's probably not necessarily the case, but I do think that that's an interesting thing to consider when we talk about OKC. And I am excited for this. These images came out last week. We were in contact with the people helping get all this off the ground, and were otherwise indisposed. But I'm so glad we came back around, because I love a good rendering. I'm super excited for what OKC can put on the table. And think about this: in just a couple years' time, we will have Oklahoma City in this league and Atletico Dallas in this league, and we can get like almost like a Red River shootout kind of situation going down with soccer. I don't know what we call it that. I don't know if we have steal names, Rob, but I'm just saying that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what nicknames might come out of that, but that's a good shout. You get a legit USL Oklahoma versus Texas rivalry potentially coming out when these stadiums and these teams come online in the next few years. I don't know if you saw it, but in the press release, there was a version where these people, AI, were moving around.
Oh, no, I missed that. Oh,
it was kind of unnerving. These people were like hopping up in like an unnatural, but that all aside,
we've torn down some AI produced renderings on this show. I think maybe Kortjeski in Oklahoma City want to avoid Morning Kickaround roasting you for having bad AI in your renderings. Just saying.
My favorite AI rendering still Greenville with the dismembered goalie with no legs. That's still the best AI one to go. So we got 5 topics down and 1 to go, plus possibly dotting the map of MK Ultra. So let's move along to our 6th segment of our machine gun of news stories here. Let's move along. Hi, I'm Morning Kickaround. Final note here on the Friday free-for-all here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. One of our teams that we are counting down to their kickoff, the New York Cosmos, a USL 1 expansion side, released their look that they will be re-entering the soccer landscape in 2026. There it is, the New York Cosmos brand new home kit just released yesterday.
All right, Rob, I'm going to say this. I took a little bit of time with it. I looked at it. I looked at some other pictures, which I'll show you, but this is a close-up. This is the best look. We don't have a full jersey shot based on what I could find over at the Cosmos website. I like it. It is simple, okay? This is not a complicated shirt at all. It is extremely simple, but it screams Cosmos to me. They made a point to mention they wanted it to be green because when you think of the New York Cosmos, you think of green. I understand that this is not unique. I understand that this is not, look, I'm wearing the glitch kit from the Maryland Bobcats from a couple years ago. I love this shirt. This is kind of extra level. People notice you when you wear this. But to me, this is classy. Now, there probably is going to be a sponsor on it. There isn't one yet that's on their list. And when we do Countdown to Kickoff, I imagine we'll be talking to them about getting a shirt sponsored, all those things. But Rob, maybe I'm wrong here, but I love it. I do. I love it.
I think you nailed it with you could just wear it around. Like a lot of the features here, like kind of wearing it as a lifestyle, as a daily sort of a wear. And it definitely isn't one of those things that people are going to be like, what the heck are you wearing? I think it's a completely normal thing. I do like the two-tone of the stripes of the green. And like you said, it does look like New York Cosmos. It doesn't seem like some drastic departure for what their classic look is. And they're definitely leaning into it. One thing for the kit nerds that I think they'll appreciate most, you'll see the lady, the model here in that picture on the left, long sleeves are available for sale right out of the gate. And I know that kit collectors like those because those back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago when those were produced en masse, those were actually just a player's thing. So a lot of the time those had to be a collector's item, but this is a retail item, the long sleeve Cosmos jersey.
Yeah, look, you could obviously go white with green, but I imagine that might end up being the away kick, the alternate for them because green is going to be their home color, which makes sense. This is okay. The other thing is to like if you're going to compare and contrast it with say the Pele era Cosmos shirts, which is what they're trying to invoke. Let's not pretend otherwise, right? They're trying to invoke the history of the New York Cosmos. If you compare and contrast with say this shirt,
why don't we do numbers on the breast like that? That's kind of cool, right?
Dope, right? This I don't know what era Pele Cosmos shirt this is, and it's possible that this is like one of those one-off testimonial game shirts or something. But it's the green. That's why I bring it up, and it has the white piping, right? The sleeves have the white. The only thing about this one is it's the collar, and obviously it's a very different material than what we're looking at in 2025. I'm wearing again. What I'm wearing is a Maryland Bobcat shirt. This is that sort of like completely artificial or whatever synthetic material, stretchy thing. It's not cotton. It's
wicking. It's wicking.
Well, whatever. It is inexpensive. I don't want to say it's cheap. I want to say it's inexpensive. And obviously, what the Cosmos are trying to do, and their price point's $100. What they're trying to do is to build in some gap here, so that when they sell their shirt, they can make some money off their shirt. I don't know if the material is exactly what this is. It may be a different material. It's Capelli, so there's that. But again, it's sort of a modern take on an old school look. Because again, you can't really do that shirt anymore. That you can't play in that anymore. I do like I do like the collar on that shirt that Pele's wearing because he's a badass. I'm not a big fan of collars in general, so I'm kind of glad they didn't go with that.
Yeah, the 90s throwback. I remember, if you're talking about collars, I remember that mid-90s Manchester United and Blackburn when they had the big floppy collar and then like the pirate lacing up the front. That'd be wild to see that nowadays. But yeah, that material that Pele was wearing, that looked like almost like hockey sweater weather.
Material.
It's
a little too intense. Yeah, it's a little too. Oh man, I'm going to lose 12 pounds of sweat here if I'm.
But I gotta say, is USL League One in danger of being a green league? There's a serious influx of green in this league. We got Boise, AV Alta, Greenville, Cosmos, Portland Hearts of Pine. A lot of green.
Yeah, that is a lot of green. Obviously, it's the balance of the green. I mean, I look. We've already had the debate of whether or not they should be using the Cosmos name, right? That's all. That's already been something we've discussed on this show, and obviously we've talked to Eric Stover. We've got into it with him a little bit, and they have connection. And, this is why he wanted to do it. I'm going to give them a pass on that part. But if you lead into Cosmos, you have to do green. Obviously, you can't change the colors of the New York Cosmos. Here's a image of a shirt from the MediaCom. This would be the Rocco Comiso era, because MediaCom is his company. Same vibe, really. Kind of. This is an NPSL shirt. So this is after the NASL had collapsed, but this is the same idea, right? It's just kind of a simple striped green shirt. I was trying to pull up something from that NASL 2.0 era of the Cosmos, when obviously that's when Rocco took over. We talk about the Seamus O'Brien period of the New York Cosmos. You're always going to leave somebody wanting. Like, you just are. Nobody's going to be like, that's the best kid I've ever seen. 100% of people aren't going to say that, Rob. So you have to make some choices. And again, like, it's not the worst thing you could have done. It's simple. It sets the tone. You're trying to remind people of that Cosmos, those old Cosmos teams, because you don't have anything to show yet, right? You got a coach and a couple players that they're announcing player signings, but they're not on the field yet. So this is an easy way to sort of just push in that direction.
Yeah, I play French Horn coming in with some facts on that Pele jersey for us, saying apparently that's the 1977 made by Umbro, probably made from cotton. So some good context there on that. So overall thoughts, Chet? I saw when we first put it on screen, there was some people saying mid. Curious to see if anyone else has some opinions. Luke saying he's B-. Wow, that's pretty tough. I feel like the shirt sponsor, I feel like people will see in a different light if there is kind of a cool corporate, the front of shirt sponsor might make it seem a little bit more exciting depending on what is on the front of shirt there. But a lot of green, and I'm excited for a countdown to kickoff when we get the minds behind that design on here to give us the nitty-gritty details of what they put into that, and kind of maybe get some a description from the mind of the designer.
One more green from the NASL 2.0 era. So this is, this one is just flat green, has a collar on it, but doesn't have any other piping. Like, this is, this is the previous professional era of the Cosmos, and this one is basic, extremely basic.
And no one really tore that shirt down. I'm guessing it's a green shirt with a white collar, and I kind of like that collar. But the striping of the new one, I kind of like I don't know what the design term for that, but like various shades of green, vertical stripes, I think is pretty cool.
I mean, it breaks it up a little bit, right? It's not leaning heavily into stripes, but it breaks it up a little bit. Again, I imagine also timeline is a factor here, right? This is something we don't really consider, is like, how quickly did they have to get this together? And I think Eric mentioned some of this when we talked to him on Countdown to Kickoff, that they're, this is like, oh, when can we do this? He told us they wanted to release this before Black Friday, because Black Friday is a big day to buy stuff, of course. But they had some issues and delays, and it's a back and forth, and there's a whole thing that goes into finding the right the right partner here. And again, they went with Capelli, so we'll see.
Luke bringing up a fair point. He likes what Capelli does on the sleeves, but he doesn't understand the squares running down the shoulders.
I'll put it back up. One more. Those little blocks, right?
They put those on the shorts too, along the hip as well, oftentimes.
Just to break it up a little bit, just to give it a little variety without it's got Adidas stripe vibes without being Adidas stripes, right? That's kind of, and I don't like the thing that all MLS shirts have the Adidas stripes on them.
That just makes it look like a template, straight up. Like, you just got the MLS template, throw the badge on, and there you go. It's part of the Capelli branding. Says I play French horn. Thanks for that note on that. And I gotta say, as someone who does a lot of play-by-play commentary through the summer, I would love if teams put the number on the front of the jersey like that, what we saw in the 1977.
Oh, yeah. That would be very helpful, right? But that's where the brand goes. That's where Capelli goes. You can't do it anymore.
Put Capelli on the sleeve, I guess.
Yeah. But again, there's still an alternate to be revealed, I think, right? That's just the home shirt that they've dropped. So there could be something interesting in the away shirt. Could be.
Yeah, so that does it for our sixth news topic on this Free for All Friday here on Morning Kickaround. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning into the live show. Morning Kickaround subscribers, thank you so much. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. And the supporters of the show on the highest level available at this point, MK Ultras, thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to our supporter of the week. Our supporter spotlight is on Ryan Smeltzer there in the bottom corner. And were we tight enough today to do a bonus?
I think we're going to do a little free for all in the free for all. So I'm going to set this right now. If you're not a member, you have 5 minutes to become a member to be part of the post show members only stream. It is ticking down. I gave it a little extra time, so now we got to find something to talk about for 5 minutes. That's not part of the bonus show, Rob. I think we can do.
Okay, so I would like, if we're kind of free for all in here, I would like to rewind to the USL teams in and out conversation, at least for a minute.
All right.
I'm thinking, because there was a couple teams that are in the hat on the schedule in the mix for 2026 that we didn't think we had. Do you think that those teams are just plugging away because they don't want to disappoint, or are we going to see some very late pulling out from the season?
So are you talking about
beyond the point of no return?
I mean, I think we're at the point of no return if you're announcing your home openers. Everybody's committed, right? Everybody has to be. You if you're on the schedule, I mean, it would be a disaster for USL after everything that they've announced in 2025 to announce home openers, to say these are the teams for our leagues, and then to have one of those teams pull out. So these teams are funded, they're bonded, they must have all of that sorted out. Otherwise, that is absolutely horrible from an organizational standpoint with the USL. So I see what you're saying. Like, we've heard some things, and maybe but man, this is not mess around territory, maybe, or we're 75%, or even we're 93%. If you're not 100%, you don't get announced as being part of the league and have a home opener. No.
So I see a topic. We, like I said, we had all news updates today. No deep dives or interviews, but there is a topic in the mix that we didn't touch on at all. And someone's asking if we're going to talk at all about the College Cup. The College Cup final is this weekend, eh? Which, like I said, there's so much going on that I guess I didn't get in the rundown.
You make me sound like a jerk. I have no idea who's in the College Cup, Rob. I have no idea. I know I know Florida State won the Women's College Cup. I am otherwise out of the loop when it comes to the College Cup. And there was a time when I probably would have been more aware, but there's a lot of soccer in the world. And I'm not trying to say college soccer doesn't have a place. I know it does, and I know a lot of people really, really care about it in this country. But man, I don't know where we are with that. And I'm kind of waiting, right? I'm waiting around to see what happens with U.S. soccer and their plan to reform college soccer, if the NCAA has any interest in engaging on that. What I think is also interesting in relation to college players is some of the conversation that was had with the League of Clubs guys. And if you're in the Discord, if you're an Ultra, you got access to the Q&A that our guys did, our Ultras did, with who are the two individuals involved in that?
Ben Rohde and Eric, that we had, the owner
Eric
of Napa Valley.
Yeah. So, and they addressed that issue of like, okay, you're trying to be pro-am, are college players going to lose their eligibility, and et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like for the moment, they really can't touch college players, and which is going to make it difficult on some level. But perhaps there's something there. Obviously, NIL has completely changed the landscape of what players can do when they're in college in terms of income. So man, it is an interesting moment for college soccer. And again, they're still going with the current format, which again, lots of people, even before U.S. Soccer dropped their plan, there was already a plan being pushed forward by Sasha Surofsky and people like that, the coach at University of Maryland, that would change the calendar, that would do some things that are a step short of what U.S. Soccer wants to do.
So what's our timer at for the 5 minutes to become an MK?
1 minute.
You have 1 minute to go.
1 minute. 1
minute.
So
with our 1 minute to go, I'll let you know that today is College Cup semifinals. Furman versus Washington on one side, and St. Louis versus NC State on the other. This is a 16th ranked versus an unranked, and a 15th seed versus a unseed. So interesting matchups: Furman versus Washington, St. Louis versus NC State, with the final to be played on the evening of the 15th, which I believe is Monday at 7:00 for the men's NCAA championship.
Very quickly, Rob, in the few seconds we have left, 25 seconds. What is the mascot of Furman?
Furman is he a French trapper?
No, Furman is a school near Greenville, South Carolina. Did you know that?
Nope.
Okay. Furman are the Paladins. Do you know what a Paladin is, Rob? Because I never.
Is that
I
a
was
World
thinking
of
like
that's a Dungeons and Dragons or a World of Warcraft thing?
that's what I thought. Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess that's what it is.